Notre Dame has its bye week after losing 27-24 against Miami. Eric, what does Notre Dame really need to accomplish during this bye week?
Wow, there's a long laundry list. And one of the things that I really like about Marcus Freeman is he's 5-0 coming out of bye weeks, the next game, and that he's really done a good job of not, this is a one size fits all kind of situation. He tailors it to the opponent. He tailors it to when in the season it comes and the physical demands on his team. This one, it's not going to be for rest, and it's not going to be for young guys. This is going to be fixes. And so I would imagine I would prioritize the offensive and defensive lines above everything else. We'd think it'd be the quarterback at that top of the list, but really getting those lines fixed is going to solve a lot of the other problems.
Talking some Notre Dame football with Eric Hansen and Tyler Hork, as we do every week here on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, go to blueandgold.com for so much more coverage. I'll ask the same question to you, Tyler. What does Notre Dame need to get done this bye week?
And I'll say a lot of the same things that Eric just said, and I'm going to start it with Marcus Freeman because I actually vividly remember writing a piece last year, I believe, on what Marcus Freeman has been able to do coming out of these bye weeks, and it's been nothing short of win football games and win them convincingly. Eric laid out the record there. But I will say, I have to go back and maybe read my own piece. Maybe I'll find that at blueandgold.com and give that a plug on our message board, the Loose Emoji message board. But Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. Notre Dame has not played a team like Texas A&M coming out of one of these bye weeks. There might have been, I don't know, like an Army or a Louisville or, some of those teams where you're like, okay, maybe this type of team can beat Notre Dame, but this Texas A&M team is probably the most talented that Notre Dame's played coming out of the bye. And guess what? That's probably why Notre Dame has this bye week, is because I don't know the ins and outs of how much a team, a coach, a school gets to say, this is when I want my bye week, but this is a great time for Notre Dame to have it because we're talking about a Notre Dame loss and a lot of fixes that need to occur because of that loss. And now you've got an extra week to prepare for a pretty good Texas A&M team, a really talented one.
Yeah, it would have been a short week too. Think about it. You're shaving one day off since it's a Sunday night game plus the travel. You're almost losing 2 days. They needed a bye week here.
Tyler, I know you've got to rewatch the Notre Dame Miami game, and we've raved about CJ Carr at blueandgold.com and on this YouTube channel. Reflect on his performance. What'd you see when you rewatched that game?
I'll start at a place that people probably don't expect me to. And it's after his interception, which, by the way, he admitted after the game was his fault. If you watch it in real time, you're probably like, oh my gosh, Mike Denbrock, we're doing another short pass out there to the flat. What are we doing? CJ Carr said, I shouldn't have thrown that ball. I should have handed that ball off. But if you watch him on the sideline after, and ESPN ABC got a couple good shots, he was just not in his own head, but he was reflecting on that pick in real time. And he said, you could literally see the angst on his face because he knew that it came at a terrible time. He put his defense in a terrible spot, and you could see it on his face that he's like, man, if I get this ball back, that's not going to happen again. And he goes up and down the sideline, high-fiving his teammates, his offense. He says, boys, if we get this back, we're going to go out there and do something special. So there's that. And then you could see all of that on the field as well with the play. I mean, the touchdown to Micah Gilbert, the touchdown to Eli, or not the touchdown to Eli Raridan, but the completion to Eli Raridan, his own rushing touchdown. He has it. He has moxie. And you saw it on and off the field.
Tyler makes some great points, and to add to that, I think what's really encouraging is that I think he's ahead from a playbook standpoint than what even Mike Denbrock expected him to be. And Mike's plan is always give him a little bit more, give him a little bit more. People were critical of the play calling, and there are a lot of reasons why Notre Dame did what it did in the first half. And one of those was CJ Carr's inexperience. But I think now you can open it up a little bit quicker and have more variety and make it more difficult on defensive coordinators moving forward with what CJ Carr can do. There's always kind of a short-term goal and a long-term plan when it comes to Mike Denbrock developing quarterbacks. We saw it last year with Riley Leonard. And this bye week is going to be really helpful. People were critical, about the RPO reads. Believe me, they're going to spend a lot of time going over those. And I think CJ Carr, with his track record with Mike Denbrock anyways in practices of not making the same mistake twice, I think we're going to see much better interpretations of those plays moving forward.
There's two things with those RPO reads as well. I think the training wheels were on a little bit to where Mike Denbrock was in CJ Carr's ear and he said, this is probably the read. And CJ Carr is sitting there thinking, okay, this is what I'm going to do with the football before the snap even occurs. The whole point of the RPO is there's multiple things that you can do with that football once it gets snapped, and you're reading the field, you're reading the defense, you're seeing where it needs to go. So I did notice multiple instances during that game where it looked like CJ thought he knew where he was going with the ball before the ball was snapped, and it would probably ended up being the wrong decision, if you will. And I think he kind of admitted to that in his post-game press conference a couple times.
Yeah, on the interception, they had 7 in the box, so throw it out quick. And I'm not going to pretend to know like the exact inner workings of what CJ is reading or what Denbrock told him for that specific play, but I can say that one, maybe you don't call the RPOs at that point on the when you have the play action, like the handoff part of it, whether you pull it or not, it's just a long time to then throw the screen out. And when Miami's running man on that, it's easier to break on that. So it's like, do you call that one? Does CJ make the right read 2? And does Jaden Greathouse make the best block on that? Which I would say no. I don't think that Jaden gave his best effort on that. So there's a lot to make.
And just one more thing quickly on all of that. The very first play of the game, Jaden Greathouse does not make a good block, and Jordan Faison has to go to a knee. And I think when he caught it, he was already down. But if he wasn't, whoever Jaden Greathouse was supposed to block was going to tackle him right away too. So there were a lot of issues on those RPOs and quick passes.
Eric, what did you make of Chris Ash in his first game calling Notre Dame's defense, and maybe what this looks like going forward?
I was underwhelmed, but I was also underwhelmed in Al Golden's first game. I'll throw that out there. What surprised me with Chris Ash was this is a defense that's supposed to be very linebacker friendly, really make the linebacker shine. I don't think it accomplished that in this game, nor do I think it made the best use of Notre Dame's defensive linemen. The hope for me is that Marcus Freeman during this extra week gets involved and says, okay, here's what I learned through my first few games as defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. And there were a lot of adjustments that Marcus ended up making because what was working at Cincinnati wasn't working at Notre Dame. So, lack of a pass rush, the defensive line getting pushed back. I think people are worried about Notre Dame's size on the defensive line. They are worried about whether they're flat. I really think this was a schematic boo-boo. Chris Ash had the advantage of being the blind date for Miami, and he didn't take advantage of it. And so my expectation is if he's as good as what people around him say he is, then we're going to see some really good adjustments going into Texas A&M. And there needs to be, because that's Texas A&M's strong suit. Their offensive line is really good. They've got a really good quarterback. They got 2 super fast receivers. So this is going to be a good litmus test to see where Chris Ash is able to adjust.
Well, first of all, I remember Eric watching or listening back to the post-game show that you guys did with Bob Morton, and Bob Morton just dropped a one-liner of brilliance, and you told him, hey, I'm going to use that one in the future. The one that you just used there about the blind date, I think I can use that in the future as well. That was pretty good.
Thanks.
Getting back to Chris Ash and what wasn't so good for Notre Dame in that game, the first play I just talked about on offense being a microcosm of what was to come. The first play on defense was kind of a microcosm of what was to come as well, where Bryce Young was shifted into a defensive tackle position. And look, I get it. He beefed up and he's a big boy now, and you could probably play him anywhere, but he's a defensive end. Let's call him what he is. And he looked a little uncomfortable in that spot, and he got double teamed, and Miami pushes the pile for an ugly 5 yards. I will tell you that, but 5 yards in that game was 5 yards. And it was ugly for Notre Dame in the sense that they were getting pushed back. So I didn't love that. And I also like your commentary there on kind of the schematics of what we're looking at in the secondary with Notre Dame. Way too much zone. And what was the narrative last season was holy cow, Notre Dame plays a lot of man. How are they surviving against these teams that they're going up against? It's because they have a Leonard Moore. When Christian Gray's at his best, I get it. There's the good and the bad with Christian Gray, but the good is really good, and he makes plays on the football. He can't do that in zone, and it's just there's tone setters to drives. If you look at Miami's final drive of the game, they go down and score 3 points, win the game because Notre Dame can't do the same with a minute left. Notre Dame's sitting in a zone. The ball from Carson Beck gets whipped out to the line of scrimmage. Wide receiver catches it, goes 5 yards before he's even contacted, and then breaks a couple tackles and picks up 9 yards, which is Miami's longest play on that game-winning drive. It was a tone setter, and it's just not what Notre Dame does. And I have a little bit of an issue with that because Chris Ash came in and he kept saying, we're not going to change a whole lot. Notre Dame is good. This is what we need to do. That game looked different from last year. There was too much zone coverage, and I think Marcus Freeman gets in there and says, hey, let's get back to who we are.
One thing too, Tyler, is when we look at the Texas A&M matchups, you got Mario Craver in the slot. You have Casey Concepcion, as good a field receiver as Notre Dame's probably going to see this season. That's certainly in that top shelf. And Leonard Moore's over in the boundary. It'll be interesting to see if Notre Dame makes some adjustments, maybe plays Leonard Moore in the slot a little bit like they did toward the end of the Miami game.
Yeah. The slot coverage was an issue as well. Go to blueandgold.com. I have 4 observations on the Notre Dame defense piece, and that was one of them. Was we knew Devonta Smith and Carson Hobbs are ballers and ball hawks. They want to get after you and make a tackle. They looked a little leaky, and that was Malachi Toney was an excellent player, and like you said, they're going to see some more excellent players. But that was something that I observed watching the game back.
I will go to blueandgold.com.
Go to blueandgold.com. I would hope you do, Eric. It's your job. But you, Notre Dame fans, it's your job to go there as well. And also hit the thumbs up on this video and subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And we'll see you guys next time.